I wish actors knew. DP edition. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. This video is part of our interview series entitled I Wish Actors Knew, and this week we're talking with a director of photography, or DP. For this interview, I was so excited to sit down with Tom Pritchard, who is a local DP here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've had the pleasure of working with Tom several times over my career. The first was almost 20 years ago on a low-budget indie production, and most recently, I was fortunate enough to have Tom be the DP on my very own pilot for our spy adventure series, Roger Espionager, coming soon to this very YouTube channel. And the point of this video series is to ask different departments on set what actors can do to make their jobs easier. And let me tell you, across all of these guests, there is so much invaluable information. This particular interview turned into a fascinating conversation on the relationship between DPs and actors. Tom was just as curious about the actor's process as I was about his process. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. Thank you, Tom, for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think with each of the people I'm interviewing for this. Most of them I've known for some amount of time, and I'm trying to think if that movie Lynch Mob was the first time we worked together.
Oh yeah, Lynch Mob. Yeah, I was in my mid-20s. Well, it's funny, I'm sure we'll get to this at some point, but I actually shot a lot more movies in my 20s than I do now in my 40s. But yeah, we met on like a horror movie called Lynch Mob, and I met your wife, Brooke. Actually, before then, I was like super young. It was like the first movie I've ever shot. It was called Art of Suicide. I'm not sure if you can find it anywhere right now, but yeah. So I've known you and Brooke for, man, a long time now.
I'd like to just start with your journey in this industry from when you first got started to kind of where you are now.
Well, I guess I was just starting college. I went to UGA. You know, we're in Atlanta. We're in Georgia now, and I've lived in Georgia since middle school. So like a lot of people in my high school, we just went to UGA. And in high school, it was a while ago. So like I was filming, but with VHS, and we'd make like VHS videos, and do the editing would just be like you stop and then start again, stop, and then do another scene. And I enjoyed doing that. But when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. But a friend said, you know, you should just try the video production department. It was called telecommunications at the time, which sounds like a very antiquated word because they weren't teaching us how to work on phone lines. But it was called telecom, and so that's what I majored in. I had some pretty cool video production teachers, one of which was named Alan Stecker. Then I graduated, and then just started at the bottom, started as a PA. So when I got out, you know, put in resumes to things like local affiliates and CNN, didn't get hired, but then gradually started working on commercial sets and even movie sets, because I eventually found out you can just be a PA on shoots. So I was PA a little bit. And as I was PAing on shoots, I always gravitated towards the lighting department, because I was so much more interested in lighting, well, camera and lighting, but specifically lighting as opposed to any other position on set. And then did that for a little bit before I started just shooting full time. For me, I just kind of like always shot, and then eventually just got, you know, I guess tired of lighting, you know, because I always felt like I could offer more than, you know, sitting on a big light outside a window and just waiting for direction. And that's what some of lighting is on bigger shoots, like waiting on a ladder outside for like that moment of like you get a call over the radio, and then God forbid you like bumble it, or you like you spot out, you spot out the light instead of, or I'm sorry, you spot in the light instead of, see, it's like making me nervous now. And then obviously you're not good at your job if like you get a call and you don't do that thing right away. But the whole time I'm just thinking, I just want to be inside by the camera and make those decisions. So I just kept shooting, did bigger and bigger projects. In my 20s, I actually shot a couple features, but gradually just started doing more commercials. But I'm in a place now I'm in my 40s now, and honestly, I want to start getting back into doing features again.
I love it. I think it's important that actors sort of don't just glaze over when they start hearing those buzzwords like gaffer and grip, electric. I do think part of the point of this video series is for actors to start to learn a little bit more, be more curious about your department and every other department on set, especially the ones that directly affect them. So speaking of that, a lot has gone on in your department before you ever meet that actor, at their first moment on set, because oftentimes your call time is going to be well before the actors, or at least well before the actor gets to set. And so when you are meeting that actor for the first time, whether they're green or a veteran, is the crew in a relaxed state of mind or a stressed state of mind by that point in the day?
I guess there's never a completely relaxed state of mind. Yeah, if they're coming out for the first rehearsal, I guess it could be at the beginning of the day where we might not be too stressed yet, but there's always work going on. It's like the actor may be coming out. That's the first thing they're doing today that day. And you mentioned they may not be in wardrobe, but yeah, they're walking into an environment where it may not be stress, but it's almost never relaxed. But yeah, and then the crew is gonna try to do their best to be respectful and be quiet, but there might be like noise going on here and there.
And so, one thing I sort of glazed over, which is veteran versus new actor. Can you just sort of intuitively tell that when an actor is coming to set, first time you're meeting them? Is it something that's sort of, whether or not you can define why? Can you tell a new actor from a veteran actor?
I I don't think so. Not during that moment of they come out and just kind of rehearse and like find their spot and find the place in the room they feel most comfortable delivering their lines from. I will at that moment. No, there's moments when the camera starts rolling where you'll notice. But I will say, and I don't know if it's a veteran thing or a new actor thing. It could just be a personality thing, but I think it might be a veteran thing where the crew loves when the actor comes into set, they're seeing everyone for the first time, and then they go up and introduce themselves to a bunch of people. That's not a prerequisite by any means, because I know there's there's things going on in the actor's head, but that really, I think, affects the crew in a very positive way, because there's a disconnect, maybe not so much between the DP and the director, I guess the above the line people and the actors, but I think there's a bit of a disconnect between the crew and the actors. It's a bit of an other. It's like the actors, that's the crew, and then the vice versa. The crew thinks that's the actor. We just don't really talk to them, hang out with them and stuff. So to bridge that gap, I think it's super cool when like the actor has the time. It's not needed to go up to as many crew people as possible, being like, "Hey, how's it going? My name's so and so. My name's so and so," and more times than not, the crew person will be like, "My name's Jim. Hey, wow, good to meet you. Good to meet." And then they go back to their work with a bit of a smile on their face, and I think that's pretty cool to see.
That's such an amazing insight, because I think some actors, especially newer actors, would feel like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm the stranger entering into the environment, so I might defer to them introducing themselves to me, and so that can then
Yeah, they're
also,
probably not going to introduce themselves
yeah.
to you.
So I think that's such fantastic insight, even for myself, because I'm a bit of an introvert in those new environments, and I'm a little bit more passive. Not that I'm keeping to myself for my process or anything like that, but one tip that I do tell actors is have your call sheet with you, because every time I do meet somebody, if I'm meeting the DP for the first time, I've either already seen your name on the call sheet, or I'll even go back and secretly with my pen be like, "Yep, check, met that person." Try to really drill it into my head, so that when I meet that PA who only just brought me from base to set, walked me, and I haven't seen them in 6 hours, like I still want to know that person's name, who is probably used to being forgotten, right? They're used.
You'll mark that you might be like, brought me coffee like that,
Yeah,
with the brown
I
hair.
try to make sure, especially if I do meet a lot of people, then I'll need extra notes of like, wait, who did my hair versus who did my hair in the trailer, and then who touched up my hair on set. I might need to try to keep those separate with a little bit of extra information, but generally I'm just trying to check off who I've met, so that I can keep them straight. But I think that's such a great note to be proactive with that. Unless you are in a headspace where you need to protect your process. I know from an actor standpoint, we will joke about it's the crew is doing all of the hustle and bustle, and then when it's like lock it up, then everyone's just sitting around waiting for the actor to do their silly little thing, so that then cut can be yelled and they can go back to work. And while it's of course more nuanced than that, that can foster that other mentality of it's like, well, I work during this between cut and action. The actor works between action and cut, and it can kind of create that division.
That reminds me. I wanted to say something about that. You mentioned like when the cameras roll in, and the crew's like, yeah, more times than not, sure they're off somewhere chilling. Maybe looking at their phone. Like if they can't make any noise or whatever, they like work stops at that moment. And the actor may think that the crew is not that interested in what's going on the monitor, because there's monitors scattered across. The crew always has access to look at something, and they will be mesmerized by like a great performance. It can be a bit inspiring. It can like pick up the day, because these are long days anyway. But if the crew sees that the actor, they see in the monitor, or even seeing through the professionalism on set, that the actor's in it to win it, just like we are, it's going to make the day go by better, and it's going to make them feel like they're working on something important if they're able to like glance at the monitor, because they will. If there's a good emotional performance or a good just funny, almost improv type hilarious performance, the crew's going to be looking at the monitor, and they're going to be drawn in, and they're going to think like, I'm working on something special. I'm working on something cool.
Yeah, that's such a great point too, because we don't, as the actors, don't always intuit that, especially if it's a soundstage where the crew could be scattered 100 feet back behind some set walls, and so I might not even hear that reaction of like the oohs and ahs if it was a really dramatic performance, or the laughs if there was something comedic. But I think it's just a good thing to be aware of, that you as the actor, even as the day player, you have influence over that entire crew. Anyone who has access to a monitor or who is standing within view of your performance, that to kind of lift them up. Or on the flip side, if you're being overwhelmed by anxiety or nerves, which is a different discussion because the eyeballs presumably are contributing to that. But if we can sort of switch that mindset to like, no, everyone is on, they're on team actor, right? They're all wanting that actor to do well, and are all going to celebrate when that actor does do well. And to know that you have that support system, and that it's not us against them.
Like I'm not used to being on camera, so right now I'm like low level nervous, but it's all good. But I can't imagine. But I'm talking about something I know about. It's like, so I can't imagine being an actor, being on camera, and like you just have to deliver a line a certain way. You have to be in a character. I imagine that's nerve wracking, and what can the crew do, or the DP do, or just the non-actors do to like help the nerves out? Like, it would scare me to death to be in your position.
This is sort of an answer to your question. I remember the first time I was ever on a it was the second time I was ever on a 4-camera sitcom type, and there was no live audience, but it was done traditionally like the 4-camera sitcom. After a certain take, camera operator leaned over and just said, "That was really great, Matthew." And just in a quiet moment when I was standing there weren't a lot of voices happening, and so much so that 10 years later, I worked with him on a movie in 22. He was actually the camera operator over my shoulder, but I recognized him, and I knew exactly where I knew him from. I was like, "Hey, we worked together." Like, in other words, that one compliment stuck with me for 10 years, such that when I saw him, I knew exactly who he was, and I verified it on my call sheet, and I looked it up on IMDb just to make sure. But then I was like, "Hey, man, we worked together on such and such." He's like, "Oh my gosh, yes, so good to see you again." And whether he actually remembered me or not is sort of beside the point, because we meet so many people in this industry. So I think that's one thing, is not necessarily to just throw out compliments, but like anything in life, if you are thinking it, to kind of say it.
Is it almost always invited that like a crew person? I mean, I don't feel like they should take up too much of your headspace or time, but is it almost always invited that they say in passing, "Hey, that was a good take"?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think Actors, whether they like to admit it or not, we are some of the most neurotic, self-deprecating, self-sabotaging creatures, which is so ironic because we choose to be the ones on camera to expose ourselves,
Yeah.
and then and yet, in fact, just watch any award ceremony. We're recording this just a few days after the Golden Globes. When you watch those acceptance speeches, you can see how self-deprecating they are. Like, oh my gosh, I'm up here and look at my fellow nominees. I don't deserve this, type of thing.
Yeah.
We're so hard on ourselves as artists, and we're always thinking that it couldn't have possibly been the best take. Like we always want one more. We always think that we didn't quite hit it. I mean, running a taping service, we see it with actors all the time where I just recorded their audition. I was in it with them because I was reading the other lines with them, and I'm like, wow, that was really good. And they're just like, oh gosh, and you can just see it in their face, or they even say it like, that sucked.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
I would have thought, and it sounds like very wrongly, that most actors are pretty confident and fairly thick-skinned.
um, the veterans become thick-skinned in the lack of bookings, right? The rejection, what it takes, that endurance that it takes, that patience. You do develop thick skin in some respects, but what never fully goes away is that nagging suspicion that it didn't look as good as you hoped it did. It didn't come across the way you wanted it to.
Yeah.
And so if a director is saying, "All right, we got it, moving on," and and if I'm low on the call sheet where I don't have the power to ask for one more, then if you see an actor who just maybe it's their first time on set, and you can do this just to placate them. It doesn't even have to be fully that you feel it, but just giving them that, hey, great job. And because I try to tell actors that if they're moving on, it means they got what they needed. If you hear the director say, "All right, moving on," then they truly know because with relative certainty, what is in that frame and how satisfied you are with it. And of course, with 10 more minutes, you could have fixed that that kick light, or that with 10 more minutes you could have brought in the other thing that would have made the lighting better.
But me doing that, it's not something anyone would notice. And maybe the same applies to the actor. Like, sure, they can do 3 more takes, but at some point there's diminishing returns, I assume.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, here's a gross analogy, which is you go into a convenience store and you open up a cooler and you grab a bottle of soda and you go, maybe that bottle's better. Right? It's like, what is really the difference between 2 bottles of the same brand soda? It's like maybe you saw that the level of it was filled to a slightly different level. It's like, is that going to really change the experience of the consumer? Or this label was torn versus that label was perfectly like, that's not going to change the taste. And it's not a perfect analogy, but in terms of what the actor is stressing out over, they're stressing out over that slightly torn label, and you're going, no, it tasted great, it was perfect, and they're going, but I wanted every little piece of it to be perfect in its presentation. And the director's going, I don't need that. In fact, I preferred that slightly dirty version of it. Like, I liked it to be a little bit more messy or organic.
Yeah.
And the actor's going, but
Yeah.
in their head. And so there's always going to be that feeling that I could have done better with more time. And because it is us being exposed, like you said, you changing the slight angle of a light, would mostly only be noticed by you and your department.
Yeah.
Whereas the actor
probably
feels
only me. Yeah. Yeah. No.
And so whereas the actor feels like I'm on display, and so and at higher levels, it becomes slightly about ego. Like, no, I'm on the poster, so I demand one more. So part of it is where you are on the call sheet. But all actors would love that that one more.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll essentially, like, if they're always given the choice of one more, they'll always say yes.
Oh yeah, a green actor may not know why. Like someone who's sort of there, and some actors will even convince themselves like, oh, because something was wrong, that's why you want one more. But most actors who have found the joy of being on set, yeah, it's like, first of all, I might only have 4 days on set this year. So, out of 365 days, I've been given 4 chances to do what I love. Yeah. So of course I want to do it more, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like time in a game, like sports game. Like, the DP is there for the whole game, and more and more. But an actor is there for like a couple minutes, so I can imagine it's like, oh no, I mean, I've only been here for like 5 minutes. It's like, you sure you have everything from me? Like everyone else is here for 12 hours.
Exactly. And they're like, I could stay in the longer, coach.
Yeah.
Keep me in just a little bit longer.
Yeah, sometimes you see actors just kind of by, just standing by themselves or, and I think for the most part, the crew doesn't want to bother them. But it sounds like a very cool tactical thing to do to say good take on that last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, for actors, I think just having that curiosity of if someone is in your physical space, changing a mark, moving a light, and it's not dangerous for the actors to still be there. So, they're just panning this light a little bit, to engage that crew member ever so briefly, especially if you have the margins to that you're not, again, in your process, in your character, to engage that crew member with a quick joke, with just an observation, or even a curiosity of like, so why do you, what difference is, I'm curious as to what that's going to change.
Yeah, that's so interesting. We're so separate on set because we would all be talking at a bar,
Yeah.
or just some kind of party or something.
The funny thing is, though, is with crew, is I've had this happen where you say something to, usually it's like I'm talking to a PA and they're staring at me, but someone's in the comm.
Yes.
So they're actually not listening to me because and usually they're good about like, hold on, I'm getting a, okay. And then, copy coming coming your way. And you're like, oh crap. So they didn't hear anything.
Yeah, this is funny when like you're talking to someone, the gaze have like the eyes go and then they're back.
Because for business reasons and for other reasons, there is that separation of job. Like, I can't move that sandbag. That's not my job as an actor. But that division of labor can then also cause that division within the set itself if we're not careful.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So let's kind of move into the actual interaction, whether it's in the rehearsal or whether it's when we're actually now rolling. What are some of the things that I can do as an actor to make your job easier?
Yeah, I guess the director early on will set a tone on like what kind of shoot it is technically. Like it could be a very locked off shoot where it's like you have to hit your marks and everyone's placed very specifically because you got stuff in the background. Their head needs to be like right, between, like when we were setting this up, there was a bottle right here that we took it out because that's part of movie making. But yeah, it could be like very meticulous, or it could be like I haven't seen the new movie, what's it called, Poor Thing, but I've heard that director wants to just be able to look anywhere. Like in the dance scene, it's like the whole place needs to be open to shoot anywhere, and they use these super wide lenses. So that could be a style too. But we'll take, for an example, we'll take the style of just like they need to hit a very specific mark, and there's a dolly move that like is pushing in while the actor is running in. They need to land. But yeah, they kind of, in a perfect world, they need to hit that mark because the cameras are very, I mean, depending on what camera you're using, lenses and the style, but it could have a very shallow depth of field. It could be if you have a long lens, it could be like that much of a depth of field of what's in focus. And the AC, the assistant camera person's, is like got everything measured out for certain marks, and the camera's moving at the same time. There's all these factors. So, like say the performance was perfect, but they completely blew past their mark. They won't be able to use that in post in the finished copy because the actor is just like blatantly out of focus. And it's just they could have had the best performance in the world, but and I don't think any kind of AI software is going to fix just like super out of focus. The AC is going to do their best because they're trained at pulling focus, so that within reason they can try to find the focus. But we kind of need the actor's help in those kind of shots, in that kind of style. The very meticulous style, if you will, of hitting that mark. And then another thing, one thing that I've always been, this is mostly the veteran actors. I've very rarely heard from real new actors. They ask myself or the camera operator what lens, what focal length lens is on the camera. They may, like a brand new actor may ask, like, is it like this? Is it this? Is it this? But I think the DP and the camera op are always pretty happy, pretty impressed when the actor is like, what lens is that? Or like, 105, and like, oh, okay, cool. So it's like, so like I'm like, this is my movement. We're like, yeah, that's yeah, basically, yeah. It's like so an actor should probably learn like look at the distance away the camera is from them. Like right now, I'm what like 5 feet away from you. So if the camera's 5 feet away and you ask like what lens is that, and they say an 85, like the actor will know. Oh, that's like pretty tight. And if I say 105, then we're probably talking like this.
Does that then open the door to just more on the level conversation as opposed to maybe gently handling the actor?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on the level, like you're talking to, like I'm talking to the AC. It opens up conversation that's as can be as technical or as casual as just like I'm talking to the AC, and that's great. Rather than it's like, well, what is the actor's experience? Like, how do I need to phrase this? And if they're not experienced, it's just real high level. It's just like, yeah, there's your mark. It's like, oh, you went past your mark a little bit. Are you most comfortable there? Is that your but that is cool talking to a more veteran actor about like you're like I'm here, and then you talk about the shot with them a little bit, and then and they're taking it all and they know exactly what you're saying. It's like then we're Dolly here and you're there, and then maybe you know that time you lift the cup is like there. Does that feel right? And you're just talking the whole shot with them like you would talking with the director, and that's I think that's pretty cool.
I think it was Jason Schwartzman who I was on a set and the it's being called out what the lens switch is. Like, let's go to an 85. And Schwartzman like, yeah, 85. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, like and just pretending like that he and it was creating a fun tone on the set. But also he's joking about how much he understands about the actual technical side of it.
Well, that's fun. That's fun too. If they're just joking around about what we're doing, that at least shows some acknowledgement of like what we're all doing. No, so I like that. Even if like, yeah, it's like okay, we're moving the camera from the gimbal back to studio mode, and an actor's like, awesome, studio mode, love it, like that. They may not know what that means, but I love that they're like joking around with it. Like we were talking about earlier, it's like bridging that wall. Like they're just our friends.
That's probably from your standpoint, that's probably one of the harder things to read initially if you've never met this actor before and no one has whispered to you what they're going to be like. They might be number one on the call sheet, and you just don't know where they are going to live in that spectrum of are they going to be one of those people that is going to be completely isolated in their own world, in which case you're going to have to handle them or pass notes to the director because you're just not sure if you should be the one telling them that or whatever. And most of the time what I've heard on set, and this is what I tell my actors when I teach an on-camera class about this, right, about relating to the other disciplines on set, and I say most of the time they're not going to tell you what you did wrong. They're going to phrase it in a nicer way, or they'll try to make the adjustment on their end to account for he keeps overshooting his mark. And so whoever focus puller is like, I've got my little tick mark, but I got to be ready to overcompensate because this actor can't hit their mark. They keep overshooting it. I would imagine at some point someone's going to have to say, we can't get the shot unless this actor hits their mark. But most of my experience is that whoever is giving notes tends to phrase them kind of like what you're saying, which is like, is that mark okay for you?
Yeah, type of thing. Yeah, well, I will say to the actors out there that have had like subpar, maybe even almost borderline on mean experiences with the crew or the DP or the op or director directing them, like that shouldn't happen. It should be phrased as complimentary. It's like, if they miss their mark, it should be phrased like how does that mark feel? Is that feel good? Should we make that your mark? Does that work for performance and everything? That's how it should be phrased. Like it's if you're being talked to in a way that's a bit mean or whatever, that's not the environment. That's not what this environment should be. It's like I wouldn't want those actors, if they're new, to think that's what this world is. Like we're here in service for them. Like they're not here to just stand somewhere and then like receive this beautiful lighting we're putting on their face, and then that's it. And then they some stuff comes out, some words come out of their mouth, and then they go home. It's like, no, it's like like I mean, movies can be shot on an iPhone. Like Soderbergh did 2 movies in a row on an iPhone, I think in 2019. That's not even the good iPhone. That would have been like an iPhone 7 or something. Like we're in service of them, so they should not be talked to like they've like just done something wrong and you're stupid for doing that thing wrong. It's especially with all the responsibility they have hanging over them of like everyone's watching them and they have to do a performance, not a performance that's, them. Like me on this interview, I'm talking to you as me. Like they have all these people watching them and they're doing a performance that isn't them. Like that's so hard and they should never be made to feel less than. They should always be brought up. So I guess that's my word to the new actors that have had bad experiences, like not talked to in the right way. Like that's not how that shouldn't be how it is.
When a set is running well, and when the tone has been set sort of correctly at the top, then it is a supportive environment for all departments. Because I've been on sets where, as an actor, the person from sound is in my space putting a wire on. Makeup and hair and wardrobe have to get in my environment. Sometimes if it is a close-up shot, you're in my environment. And so we tend to hear the crosstalk, unfortunately, where departments are talking about other departments. And on a good set, it's usually just fun banter. And on a set where there's a lot of stress, it's people complaining about other departments, like a wardrobe person saying, I know sound's going to hate this material, but I don't care, and it's like, oh, wow, okay, we're on one of those sets today. But when it's running well, which is the vast majority, like you're saying, then it should be supportive, that conversation. Is there anything else, any other behaviors that actors either need to sort of be aware of, technical things that would help your job?
One thing DPs always like, generally there's a light, a key light that's the more dramatic the piece is, like the light is a little more to the side. If it's a commercial or something, it can be more frontal. Or if it's the movie Barbie, it can be directly in front. But yeah, generally the light on a movie is like to the side. One thing DPs always love is like if there's a moment where the actor is thinking, and definitely if it's in like a close up, they just kind of like look towards the light, which rather than, I guess there's a light there too, but yeah, as opposed to like looking, well, there's lights everywhere, but so you won't get that good idea from this interview setup. But as opposed to looking away from the light, that's like DPs always love that. I don't know if in your classes if that's ever.
Well, it will be now because I'm looking at my monitor and like this is definitely brighter on this side. So yeah, it would be that sort of don't get lost in thought where your face goes more into shadow.
You're just looking right into shadow.
Yeah. But I love that. That's such a fun little nugget because. What I tell my actors is, you don't want those types of notes to start replacing your craft, right? Where you're only thinking about, as long as I look to the right place, then my performance will be amazing. But those are such they're such great nuggets of understanding your medium because theater is a different medium. If you're busking on a street corner, right, that's a different medium. And knowing what the advantages are to this medium of TV and film. I think little notes like that are amazing because you're right. The veteran actor will know, they'll know sort of, and let's say it's a real narrow shaft of light, either for a horror movie or for some other reason. Like, the veteran will know exactly how to hit that mark and make sure that the appropriate amount, whether it's the light, just coming across the eyes and know how to hold or know how to adjust. Like if it's something where, let's say that, it's a diner scene that you and I are in, and I happen to shift over, right? The veteran actor will kind of know that I might have just gotten obscured by Matt, with my coverage. And so the veteran actor, I think, would then also counter with a slight shift of the shoulder just to make sure they didn't get fully obscured so that the rest of this take is still salvageable.
You're doing it over the shoulder. There's light coming from a certain place, and the actors are walking. They might land somewhere. And then one actor notices right away that they're standing right in front of the other actor's light, and then so they'll just like move over a little bit. So that's I can definitely picture with all the things being thrown at a new actor that they're just super honed in on their lines and their performance, and then they may be like looking right at their fellow actor standing right in their light, making a big shadow, and not really even notice. Uh, if we're rolling, that could be a reason to say like we can't do that take, we can't use that take. Like I think a good director may not stop them instantly because of it, may let them keep going. So it's up to the actor to notice that it's like, I just moved right in front of that light. They're completely in shadow now because it might have been a hard light or something, and then maybe just to step a little bit to the side.
Yeah. I've been on both sides of that equation where I have to adjust to find my light because the actor,
Oh,
is obscuring me. Or I realize like, oh crap, I'm casting that shadow, and maybe it's just on their ear. Like maybe I almost hit my mark perfectly, but it's still just that one ear is in shadow, and so you just kind of have to make that extra little natural shift so that their ear. And I realize that kind of like you're touching on for actors, that kind of feels overwhelming sometimes, of especially the new actor who is hopefully just there to focus on their lines. And it's like you're asking me now to be worried about lighting and stuff like that. And the short answer is yeah. Eventually, that's where you want to be as an actor. Is that your performance still is first and foremost, but that you have that little director on your shoulder that can keep track of some of those very obvious things like that.
do you like I've worked with you a couple times, and you're obviously a good actor, good at your performances, but you also like know just as much a lot of the crew people do technically. Um, are you almost like a diamond in the rough in that regard, or do you try to? Have you always been interested in both? And I guess another question: do you try to teach other actors to also learn about both, be very knowledgeable about the technical side too?
Yeah, yes and yes. I'm a little unique, I have found, in how nerded out I get about every discipline. So I think I have a little bit more curiosity than the average actor as to what does the 85 lens mean versus the 20. What does it mean to what are the implications of the camera booming in the shot or dollying or something like how does that affect me in the final image and knowing that difference between a static locked off shot versus something that's going to be moving. And it's one of the reasons why I teach the class I do, is because I realize that many actors either they just don't have that curiosity, but then they're still faced with that burden of sort of being expected to know some very basic things. And my overall goal is not to make them become nerds like me as much as it's to say they're not against you, right? These other departments that are asking you for for you to not obscure the other actor's light, like that's not meant to cloud your head with more thoughts. It's like no, it's all in service of the same thing. And so if we can approach it from that curiosity standpoint, that collaborative standpoint, uh, and then if I can expose them to enough of those challenges of hitting three marks in a scene, of understanding how to not miss that perfect lighting cue, then they'll be ready for it, and it'll be more of a like what's going to challenge me today on set that I've never experienced before.
Gotcha. And that probably plays into us choosing our words more carefully when giving them direction, and because they may like they need to worry about this light thing too, and like they may we wouldn't have thought this, but they would think, and that's not very considerate of you to be telling me about that because I need to nail this performance. That's like, why are you? That's not you're not taking into mind what a so it's like that plays in even more how like we just need to delicately like give them the critique and the advice.
Yeah, and whether you do like the compliment sandwich, like "Hey, great take," and then you sort of sneak in the question of like, "Was that mark okay for you?"
Mark, okay. It's very good, Mark. Thank you.
Because sometimes you'll then be surprised by the intelligence level of them, and I don't mean like IQ. I mean their set intelligence, that they suddenly go, "Oh, I missed it, didn't I?" And then you can be like, "Oh, just yeah, just a little bit," but now you know that they know, and it's like, "Oh, good." Going back to that earlier phrase, you can now be on the level with them and have a more open discussion. Whereas if you just get bug-eyed, deer in the headlight look from them, you'll know like, okay, I need to be more delicate about how I approach them because they might completely shut down if they're just being overwhelmed by nerves.
I know they're like if I get super nervous, I'll shut down. There doesn't, and then there's just nothing going on in my head. There doesn't seem to be an environment for that for the actor on set, but I'm sure it still happens.
Because here's the other downside to the new actor who is maybe in a scene with someone higher on the call sheet. They're almost always going to shoot the new actor first because the series regular, the number one, that then functions if we're doing if
you need to do the close up, do the new actor's close up first, and then reverse and do the.
So if they're running 3 cameras, then of course it's all happening at once. But if it's more of a single camera setup, we do maybe the wide shot first, and that's acts in some ways as a rehearsal for everyone because we're only going to use it at maybe the opening of the scene, maybe once or twice during the middle, maybe at the end to close it out. So it's not really, save that performance for the close up. Most times they'll move in, if you're the celebrity in the scene, they're going to move to my close up first because then it gives you a couple more takes to figure out where you want to live for your final performance. And so then we'll move around to the celebrity's close up, unless the celebrity needs to be wrapped. Right. Then we'll do celebrity first and then they'll get wrapped. And then now you're the stand in for the celebrity. And I don't even get to act with Brad Pitt. I'm acting with his stand in. But the point being that if they start with my close ups and I'm a new actor, then I haven't even had time to like relax into the scene really, and now I'm being thrown all the stuff. And then it's harder for them to buy time at that point. If we were on the celebrity's close up, it would give me time to kind of start relaxing into the scene. But if you're starting with me, man, that can I understand why they do it. It's necessary, but that can compound things because the actor goes from trailer to set. They do a quick rehearsal, and then suddenly it's like, and then it's over. And you're like, whoa, what just happened? So it can compound pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a fine line to walk, right? Because like say you have the kind of the rigid set where like the actor has to stand in a very specific place and do things at a certain moment. But say like they're not finding their performance at all because of the rigidness. I feel like they should be able to say that, like speak up rather than it's like they're getting the direction. Okay, I'll do that direction. I want to make this director happy. I'll do it. It's because the director's thinking about what's best for the film. And if I'm uncomfortable, then that's like that's I need to barrel through that or what. So I don't know. What's your advice there? Like especially a new actor is just like I have to be right here, but deliver this super emotional, and I can't move at all. I don't know. What's your advice?
Yeah, I think it's tough because if the actor doesn't understand the needs of a set, then if they just get vocal, there might not be any solution to it. It's like, well, we have to shoot the scene this way,
That's why. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like what if we have to do it? Like I don't know. Yeah.
But I think to your point though, I think the actor should not feel so shut down, so small, right? First of all, actors who are on set for the first time, it's their first day, not necessarily ever, just first day on this show. It can feel like the uninvited guest to the party, like everyone else has been here partying and no one even knows I'm here. And when they do see me, they're like, "Why are you here?" Like it can feel that way, and actors need to embrace the fact that you belong on set, you earned your place there, and that should empower them to ask certain questions. Or make certain things known, which is like, hey, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by this. Is there any way we can simplify? Is there any way that I can fill in the blank? And so if it's delivered from that standpoint of I'm just telling you what the facts are, and if there is a way to compromise, please let's do it. If not, I might just need an extra take, to get there.
So it sounds like they should always still be open to how like things might not be able to change at all. Sure. But it's important for them to be like, to voice their concerns.
Yeah, because again, you are part of this and you're necessary to this project succeeding, even if you only have that one line as the waiter saying, "Would you like a refill?" It is a balance of the actors understanding their rights and being vocal when they feel like they need to be heard. But that's sometimes easier said than done because actors do sometimes feel small once they get to the set for that first day. So I mean, it's a note for myself because I will tend to, like on a recent set with the menu, I'm left-handed, and the guy's propping me up with a right-handed holster. And I said, ooh, I'm left-handed. And he goes, ooh, I don't have a left-handed holster. So it was like an impasse. So I could have pulled, I could have said, well, you're going to have to figure it out because I cannot realistically draw this weapon with my non-dominant hand. And he would have had to figure that out. Instead, I did the Matt thing, which was I just spent the next hour drawing, learning how to draw my firearm with my non-dominant hand. And I don't recommend that, right? You would want to find a solution where both parties are happy. For me, in my personality, it's usually deference. Like, sure, I'll do what you want. And everyone needs to find their balance somewhere.
Yeah, find their own balance. Rather, like, it's not necessarily the solution. Like, every time you get a little bit uncomfortable, you say, like, hey, I'm concerned about that. Like, yeah, you just need to it's all about finding that line.
Sort of read the room, but don't diminish yourself. I think that's the overall note, is to not feel so diminished that you can't have that conversation. And it might be a whisper to somebody, right? It might be a whisper to a PA, like, hey, I'm just feeling overwhelmed, right? And then maybe that PA takes it up the food chain, and then magically something happens, and it doesn't even get addressed, so you don't get called attention to. People go, well, Matt needs less props, so we're gonna accommodate. It's not like that. It's just like suddenly something changes and it gets easier. Or it might be talking to that AC or the camera operator who you've already developed a rapport with, and you just kind of say, it might even just be like giving the big eyes in between takes, like, I'm overwhelmed. And if they see it and you've already got a rapport, they might then engage and try to find a solution. Because sometimes it's a simple thing that might be able to be fixed for the actor. Like, we didn't need to give you all that stuff to think about. Yeah, I can simplify it. I just, I'm saying, like, from your discipline, you might not intuit that that's overwhelming to me. But the instant you realize it, you might have a very quick solution. Like, oh, no, we don't need to do it that way. Had that guy given me the right-handed holster and I never said anything, and then 3 hours later I go, gosh, yeah, I'm struggling because I'm left-handed. And if he went, I could have put it on your left side. Like if he had come to me with a simple solution, but I never spoke up for myself, then it's like, then everyone's stressed out for no reason. So I think, again, if you're just sort of, even if you can only be vocal to a co-star initially, without complaining, just sort of vocalizing, your needs, it might be an easier way than being like, hey, I have a question, because then that feels very exposing to say, I'm feeling incapable right now. So,
like, in conclusion, all this movie making stuff is kind of tough, but we should all be a bit more on the same team, and we are. But
yeah, and that's the theme. I think that's a great way to wrap this up, which is that everyone is trying to be in service of the same thing, which is that final product. We all contribute our piece to it, and if we all can look at each other and each other's departments with that respect, and I love to use that word curiosity, because when you're curious, it takes away so much of the negativity that could come with it. So with that in mind, thanks, Tom, for being here. It was
yeah, this was fun. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, appreciate it.
Wow, that was another interview full of information that is so helpful to actors as they navigate that first time on set or that 20th time on set. My thanks once again to Tom Pritchard for being so generous with his time, and be sure to tune in to the rest of this video series as we drop these videos over the coming weeks, or if you're watching this in the future, maybe they're already posted. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.